So what you have is equality, but you don't have equity. What ends up happening is, so let's say the richest person gets $1,000 and the poorest person gets $1,000. All that's going to do is cause somebody in the middle to raise their prices because now they know that people have more expendable income. But you're not leveling out the inequality. Our problem in this country is not how rich the rich are or how poor the poor are. Our problem in this country is the difference between those two. And until we have a reconciliation between those two, our problems will continue to multiply. So, for example, the top paid person, we need to go back to where they're paid whatever percentage above the lowest paid person. I don't think everybody's entitled to a 4,000 square foot house and a yacht and a whatever. That's not what I'm saying. But until we get back in the realm of proportionate income inequality or disequality, we're going nowhere. And that's just what I'm saying. That's not my opinion. Like, that's just what we're seeing. And it's only getting worse. So we have to narrow that gap. Right. And the problem is the people at the top don't want to narrow that gap. They like very much being 3,000% higher than everyone else. Too fucking bad. And you know what? It's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable to live like this. So I'm not about taking from the rich. I don't care how rich the rich are, but you can't have the poor being this poor comparatively. Right? That's the problem. You want to be that rich? Fine. You need to pull the bottom up with you as well. That's all I'm saying. So you have your gold-plated airplanes. I was actually on a private jet that had gold fixtures in the bathroom. Okay, you want that? Fine, have at it. I don't care. But the person who's cleaning the floors in the hangar where you store your airplane needs to be able to support his family too. Okay.
And that's a very reasonable approach. That's not attacking anybody.
No.
Let me follow up on this. I'll comment on this comment here, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it. Mike Has Bad Needs follows up on that and says, the government doesn't tend to give up money without taking control. Before I let you go, Jen, just real quick let me add to that is, I agree with that. Mike Has Bad Needs. I'm talking about these issues personally from a standpoint of a government you can trust. Because quickly we can't support anything from the government.
Exactly. Then what we would do nothing.
Then we do nothing. But that is what our channel wants for, like we actually want the government to do nothing. But just for the sake of conversation, Mike Has Bad Needs, let's talk about it. And Jen, like for example, let's say it's the government we have now. If we had Medicare for all.
Yes.
Everybody would have had to got that needle for the pandemic. Yes or no?
I don't think so. Why? No,
I think they would have. I think the federal government would have.
Okay, what they would do and what I would sign off on and what I would fight against are two totally different things. The concept of Medicare the idea of government to me, let me be very clear. Okay, it's not to patrol us and control us. We don't need to be patrolled and controlled. We need to have our rights defended. We need to have ourselves, basically stood up for by corporate interests. We need the government to protect us from the corporate interests or foreign interests or whatever interest. We don't need them to control and patrol. So when I talk about single payer healthcare, I'm talking about every single person gets to go to the doctor, gets to go to the dentist, gets to get their eyes checked, gets to get mental health if they need mental health treatment, whatever it is. And that money that is there for them to do that is there. That's my thing. They don't have to pay out of pocket. There's no insurance premiums. It's just there because that is our collective resources. And if you tell me that we have collective resources to go and be killing people in Gaza, and we know that we already pay more in health costs, we know that we have the worst maternal and infant mortality rates, but we have the most expensive healthcare in the world. How is that? This makes no sense to me whatsoever. We know that single payer will save us money. We know that. That's proven. And even by the most conservative Fox spewed polls that I saw in the past, it saves us like $2 billion a year or some absurd number like that to have single payer healthcare. So even the people that tried to prove that it wouldn't work couldn't even prove that. So unless somebody has evidence from any study, and again, that was the Koch brothers study. Let's be clear. That is the Koch brothers study. So we know that that is what best serves us financially. And we know that is what best serves us healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally. So why don't we have that? We don't have that because the insurance companies and big pharma have bought our government and have bought the fourth estate. And we sit here and watch pharma ads, and we sit here and give excuses to people like the Sackler family who should be in prison and all of these things. But at the end of the day, that's our resources. This is our government, and we should have healthcare because we want it. And it's absurd that there's people that we pay 180 grand a year and to tell us we can't afford healthcare, but they have healthcare. Think about that. Like how brainwashed and how like it's like Stockholm syndrome, man. Like we really are sitting there like, so these Congress people that we pay that are our employees have great healthcare, but we can't have healthcare? People.
Yeah.
People.
And Israel has universal healthcare as well.
Oh, Israel's got healthcare. Israel's got healthcare and education, all of it. Like every other country that is that we consider near peers. You know what I'm saying? Every country has these things. And yet people believe that somehow we can't have that. People, we've been brainwashed. Yep. We have been brainwashed.
And I agree with universal health care. We don't talk about it on the channel as much as I probably should. I don't like, Nina Turner's good on this. There's some things I disagree with. I like her delivery. She's great. And there's some things we disagree on, but she's right on this. Your health should not be tied into your job. That's not a good position for us. We saw that during the pandemic. It's not, and just in general, it's just not a good position to be in as we go towards more of a gig economy.
It's very non-entrepreneurial. When you have people tied, literally these are wage slaves. And now we're talking about benefit slaves. The amount of people that have to keep their job, to keep their insurance. Do you know how much innovation and creativity and stuff like that and small businesses and ventures we're missing out on because people can't afford to stop working as a cog in the machine? How does that serve us? How does that serve small businesses? I mean, like my long-term goal are small, sustainable communities. I like decentralization. I like the idea of people walking places. I like the idea of co-ops for organic food. And I like the idea of small, sustainable, regenerative, that kind of life. How is that ever served when people have to be tied to big businesses in order to afford health insurance?
Yep.
It just does not serve. That keeps us all tied to corporations as opposed to being able to be small businesses and able to have small communities. We're not able to do that in this world. And it's very, very difficult. And it's because of things like this. We need health care.
Yep. Let me go to the $20 super chat. Great friend of show, Cyan. Cyan says, I'm just reading this for the first time. We're going to be changing topics, it looks like. Cyan says, just joined and may have missed this question being asked, but what of dissolving and or limiting squatters' rights, as there are stories of undocumented immigrants essentially stealing homes at the owner's expense? I don't know if you've seen those videos coming out and discussions.
No, I haven't. But I will say this, in a lot of things like this, and especially when we're talking about stories regarding immigrants, migrants, they pick outliers and they pick incendiary things purposefully. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that this has not happened. But you have to look at it in the context of percentage of times that happens versus amount of people, right? Because they will find the most incendiary stories. Because at the end of the day, is that Cyan, they want us to be kicking down. And anytime that people are diverting your attention, your energy, anything, to the people that have less political power than you, you're being duped. The only way you need to be punching is up. I'm not saying this isn't a problem. What I'm saying is it's also a distraction, and it is by no means the main problem. If we can even go into getting started why we have so many of these immigrants coming in from what we've done to their home countries. We could get into all sorts of stuff there. Like, I don't need to get into it. What I'm saying is don't look at outliers. Don't look at incendiary stories. Look at mass numbers. Look at what is most likely, what is most happening, and focus on the bigger issues. So I believe that's happening, but I just think there's way bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything there. I mean, obviously, you're not for people just stealing homes.
Of course
so
not.
I think that's a very poignant kind of point that you made there with making sure. I think the concern from Cyan and others there, and again, thank you, Cyan, for the $20 super chat, is going at politicians. So I don't think Cyan is going at the immigrants.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like going at the
I do, but the problem is they're the one they're distracting her into being on that is the issue, as opposed to the issue is, why do we have businesses that don't want to pay a living wage? And that's why they're having all these people that they're allowing to come in from the border. Why aren't we penalizing the businesses? Why are we penalizing the people that are desperate? So I'm not saying that the immigration problem isn't a problem. What I'm saying is that we don't need to be penalizing the most desperate and oppressed people. We need to be looking for solutions to help the least of these while punishing the people that are creating the problem, which are the people at the top. And the politicians know this, and they don't care, because they're probably being paid from the same companies that are creating this problem in those businesses that want these cheap labor workers to be coming here. So this has to do with how we treat labor in this country. This has to do with right to work states and how we have labor that we're able to treat like crap. You know, it's like it's all connected. We need strong labor. We need to have a living wage. And then you can have an immigration policy that could be suitable. But you're not going to have that while you're having getting people bussed and trained and flown in to have cheap labor. And the people at the top of that food chain have no penalties. See, that's the problem.
Yeah. The self-care Maven says, Jen, you rock. Thank you for the explanation. Yeah, she's dropping bars today, as always. Like this, I need you running for office like 24/7, Jen. Like you just on another level. Right?
Need that. Oh my God.
I know. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No. It's like, this is how I describe it. Being a candidate, having a campaign, it's like you're on a roller coaster and you're in the front seat and the back seat is on fire and you have to get to the end of the ride before the fire catches up to the front of the car. That's what a campaign feels like.